Good morning in California. Are you in California?
Oh, I am in Houston, Texas.
Why did I think I was calling you in Palm Springs, California?
Oh, I've never been to Palm Springs.
Oh, well then your time is the same as ours, about 11:35.
Yes, that's right.
We're very excited that you're coming to St. Louis as Dolly.
I'm excited, too. I only played for the Muni Opera in Lorelei in the summer of '73.
Remember very well.
But I played in your Kiel Auditorium so often. St. Louis audiences I'm really looking forward to. Do you know, we played the Christmas season of 1966 in the Kiel Auditorium and broke the house record, and I played in Blondes when I was there in '53 in the Kiel Auditorium, and I broke the house record, but in '66 I broke my own house record. Isn't that wonderful?
You mean it took your returning, you had to come back to break the record that you set the first time?
I like to look at it that way, yes.
Carol, in 1950,
Yes.
or 50, I saw Gentlemen Prefer Blondes at the Greek Theater in Hollywood. Am I right?
Not with me.
Yes, I did. No?
No, I never played it in Hollywood. Gertrude Neeson and Nancy Andrews played it there.
Oh, that's what I wanted to ask.
Yes. That's not the one I am.
No.
I'm Carol.
Yes, I knew that.
Yes.
Now, when Dolly comes back to St. Louis,
Yes.
that's quite an exciting. Is it called a revival since you're doing Dolly again after some time? Do you call this a revival?
Exactly 10 years since we closed it. The thrill is the Houston Grand Opera is putting it on, and they are they're the ones who put on Porgy and Bess as the Great American Opera, and it won all the awards. And it's been on a triumphant tour. It has just electrified the world because they did it so carefully and so elegantly. But it really is the finest Porgy and Bess that was ever put on. And then they decided their next project would be that they would like to put on Hello, Dolly as one of the memorable American musical comedies. Well, I'm so honored and thrilled. And they've done the same thing. They put it on so elegantly. And we're absolutely true to the original. Jerry Herman, wrote the words and music. And he's the overall artistic director, and it was his original concept, this whole Hello, Dolly, and he wrote it for me.
Well, didn't the show really change a bit with different stars through the years? Didn't they, each of them, I'm thinking of Pearl Bailey or Ethel Merman, play it a little bit differently?
I only saw Pearl Bailey on opening night, and I loved it. I thought it was terribly funny because it was just the opposite of my Dolly. But I haven't seen any of the others, so I don't know.
Did it ever, does it hurt when something is written for you on Broadway and then someone else does the movie? I mean, do you sometimes feel like that shouldn't be done that way?
Oh, well, you see, the movie was done as an anti-Dolly thing. They didn't want Gower Champion, who was the director, and they didn't want anything to do with anybody. They saw Dolly and didn't like it, which was one of the few people. And so it was a man named Ernie Lehman. He wants to be called he wants to be called Lehman. His name is Lehman. It's spelled Lehman.
Yeah.
And why it's pronounced Lehman, I don't know. But anyway, so he said he put it on and they offered it to me, but I could tell he didn't like it, didn't want it, and wanted to do an anti-Dolly movie. So let them go ahead.
And after the enormous success on Broadway, the movie really went like that, didn't it?
Yes, I understand. It closed, what was it that made it? 20th Century Fox.
Yeah, it didn't.
It's a shame because Barbra Streisand is a great creative artist, and we all know that. And I'm awfully glad I didn't make it now because they would have blamed me.
Do you think that if you'd made it, it'd have been different, though? Wouldn't it have been different?
No, because I have no jurisdiction over those long, slow-paced shots they had. See, I can't control that. It was like The Sound of Music. It was perfectly beautiful, which was true and wonderful for The Sound of Music. But this is a comedy. It's a fast pace.
Well, then what about the size of our stage here in St. Louis? You're going to have...
we're used to that.
You know, it's a quarter mile from wing to wing.
I've played there often.
Yeah.
Yes. No, we're used to that. I mean, no. Oh, I know what you mean. Your Muni Opera.
Right.
Yeah, I've only played there once before, but I loved it. I'll tell you why I loved it. It is because, Jack, you should be standing. Have you ever stood on that stage when a show is going on?
Just backstage.
Backstage.
Yeah.
Well, then you know what I'm talking about. From where we are, the performers, when there is a laugh, it is the most wonderful thing you ever heard. It sounds like an avalanche. It starts from the top of that huge place and rolls right on down. And it is just, it doesn't sound like laughter anymore. It just sounds like the heavens have approved.
Uh-huh.
You know, it sounds like God said, that's funny. You know, it's just the most wonderful feeling to work there. I love it. I know there are bugs, and I know that it's hot and all that. The lights are very hot and all that. But performers don't know that once they're out there. Have you noticed that? I mean, I come off bleeding all over and say, I wonder when that happened.
No, I think that the numerical, the amount of the audience there is it's a feeling that rolls right up on the stage, and you feel it. You know they're out there.
Yeah.
And there are very few places to play in the world where you reach that many people live at one time.
Exactly. There's a place in Oklahoma City. They used to seat 7,500. And that's the sort of thing. But you feel this roll of approval.
Uh-huh.
And it's just heaven. I mean, it's so powerful. The audience reaction is just that many times more powerful.
Sure.
So for performers, it's a thrill. It really is.
Joe, let me ask you, every time I pick up the paper, I read about somebody who has gotten very successful very quickly, usually in a television thing, but sometimes on stage, like Farrah Fawcett Majors or Archie Bunker and that sort of thing. And the first thing it seems that they do is get tired of the part and feel that they're being typecast and want to go on and do bigger and better things and end up in interviews saying, I hate Archie Bunker or I hate Charlie's Angels or whatever it was. And I just wonder if you ever hated Dolly during those 4 years.
Oh, golly, no. No, you see, it's probably more rewarding with live audiences and all. Dolly is a classic character. See, it's Thornton. It's one of our great, great classic characters. Wasn't I lucky, Jack? I got to play two of America's classic characters, Lorelei Lee, Anita Luce's Gentlemen Prefer Blondes character, and Thornton Wilder's Dolly Gallagher Levi. And they are our Lady Macbeths. In Europe, they have Hedda Gabler and all that, but they're not American.
Uh-huh.
And they have Lady Macbeth and all that, but this is as old as we go. For comedy characters, to me, they're the two prizes. They are just fabulous. And you don't get tired. See, Lady Macbeth will go on forever, and so will Dolly Levi.
Yes, I
and
think
so
you're
will
right.
Lorelei Lee, because they're an accurate reflection of our times. They are Americana. It's as we revive this. See, it's 10 years since we closed it here in Houston, and that's why this is the 10th anniversary of opening it. Since I closed it, so it was in 1964, January of 1964, when I opened it in New York. And I'm the original. What is that? I have no mathematics.
64 is 13 years.
15 years.
13 years.
13 years. 13 years, thank you. Well, 13 years since we opened it, and I realized since we've revived it how well I understand her. She's become a part of my bloodstream now. She's just settled. But this will be done for hundreds of years, just the way operas are in Italy.
Uh-huh.
But they'll be a reflection of the United States times and mores. See, Dolly is Americana. She's our she's our grandmothers, our forebears. The whole thing is our own. It's not. It's like Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
It's terribly American.
Carol, do you ever get butterflies opening night or for any performance? Do you ever get a little nervous backstage?
Well, Jack, there's a crystallization of thought. It's just a total concentration. And if anyone interrupts it, I suddenly realize, yes, I suppose you'd call that nerves. But, I mean, if they suddenly say something, like, isn't it a lovely day? And you think, what difference does that make?
Uh-huh.
All that matters is the show. But I realize that I don't suppose it's so that it shatters you. It's just so that you're absolutely focused. And I consider nerves God-given because it makes your adrenaline works faster, and my brain is much quicker than it usually is, thank goodness. And everything is at top pitch. It's the finest performance you can give. So I feel that every night. I mean, anything could go wrong. I remember once Jimmy Durante saying to me, one girl said, well, I don't know what you're all fussing so for, and you're running back and forth before this television show. And I'm fine. And he said, oh, the confidence of the amateur. But the longer you're in the business, the more nervous you get, because the more you know that can go wrong. You know?
Yes.
And, of course, failure is a sickening feeling. You've got to win with this audience, this immediate audience.
And the show's the thing.
Oh, yes, but I mean, you can't let them just go out passively and say, yeah, it was a nice show. Oh, that's just awful. They've got to stand up and cheer.
Certainly.
You know, so it's always a challenge.
Well, if no butterflies to speak of, what about superstitions?
Oh, I don't have any of that.
None?
To me, whatever went wrong is because we didn't rehearse it enough.
Uh-huh. You know, don't you think are superstitions out today? At one time, they were everyone in the theater, and sports too, for that matter, seemed to have their own little superstitions and one thing another. But more and more today, everyone says what you say. No, I don't. No, I'm not. And you're not at all.
Well, I've always been proud of that. I'm just worse. I mean, I deliberately walk under ladders and things. But see, they say that's just as bad.
Mm-hmm.
But it isn't that. I'll tell you, I think that people who are I understand that pilots and people who are dealing with strange elements like audience, you see, an audience can roll with you or against you over the least. It's the strangest thing. You keep thinking, God, this is a dangerous business. They can roll against you or with you, and you can't figure out what it was. And you find out it was a split-second timing of a laugh.
Mm-hmm.
You know, or you happened to move, or you breathed on that line, or something, and the doggone thing doesn't go with you. And so people call it luck. It isn't. You've got to learn to analyze what did it.
Mm-hmm.
What was it?
Can you get them back always, Carol? If you lose them, if they turn, can you turn that around and bring them back?
Well, that's the whole thing. That's why people wonder, don't you get tired of the show? Good Lord, no. We're dealing with the human element all the time. It's the most precarious business there is. Yes, you can get them back if you just keep at it and make it believable again. Something happened to shatter their believability of it. And so you lost your laugh. And so you just got to make it believable. But it's actually happening right here on this stage right now. And then they start going with you again because, oh, yes, that happened to me. Oh, yes, I've been in that predicament. Oh, yes, my wife, my sister's like that. My mother's like, somebody's like that or I'm like that. And people start relating again. But that's why you can't overdo, and you've got to go so carefully. It has to always be, as I say, as believable as Lady Macbeth.
Well, is that the key to Dolly's success? Do we all know a Dolly somewhere? Do we all have a Dolly in our lives?
Oh, I feel it. When we're playing this, I feel everyone in the audience relating.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I feel them all saying, yes, oh, yes.
An aunt,
I've felt that.
A grandmother who was always...
Not grandmothers, no. They're young people. It's Dolly is emotion. I mean, it's the emotions of all of us. She's a human being, and we're all human beings.
Well, we're excited about Dolly's arrival.
We have a wonderful train on this thing, and the children just scream.
A train?
Oh, yes, we've got a real train on the stage. That is, it's a stage train.
Yeah.
And the children just scream and holler. The funny thing is the people that get nostalgic about the 20s and the turn of the century, have you noticed it, Jack? They're the young people that were never there. Isn't that funny?
No, you're right.
And they cry over it and everything.
Yeah, but they don't remember how dirty it was, or the flies, or whatever, I guess.
The what?
The flies, or whatever. Well, they say the turn of the century was wonderful, but there was 50 million tons of horse manure that had to be shoveled off the streets every day. I guess the people who long for the good old days don't remember that, and the other things.
By the same token, I guess that's right. They don't remember it. See, it's like today, it's funny, but we all love nostalgia. I mean, I do, but I notice that the young people are the ones that love it. And, yeah, you're right. They don't remember the bad things. If we were to say atom bomb right now, you couldn't get a laugh with that. And you know there will be a day when people can say atom bomb on the stage and everybody will laugh because that's conquered. It's over. We've got control of it. Nobody's going to set it off, you know? I mean, as soon as it's conquered, you can laugh about it. Like those awful days in the 20s when everybody got shot by machine guns and they were just innocent bystanders. And now we laugh because it's over. The problem, you know, we're in a deific position. We can look and be amused rather than be frightened of it.
Well, it takes a few years for perspective to look back to get things in their proper perspective, certainly.
It sure does. That's why it's so much easier to be funny in a bygone era. It's much easier than to be funny in a modern. I mean, about just everything is ridiculous. Nobody's afraid of anything right now, of what was there.
You know, I was thinking of some of the funniest films in the last couple of years. When you said that, I thought of The Sting and Paper Moon, and they were all not old period pieces, but in the 20s, in the early 30s. And
things can be funny now, but it's easier to be funny in a bygone era. Yeah.
Because we're through it, and we know we got through it, I guess.
Yes, and we feel superior to it.
Yeah. Joe, I'm going to let you go. I just want to tell you again how thrilled we are about Dolly's coming to St. Louis on the 4th of July.
Jack, are you going to see it?
Oh, probably 4 or 5 times.
Oh, Jack, would you come backstage after the show and I'd love to meet you.
Absolutely.
And tell me what you think of the train and everything.
Absolutely. Be there opening night.
Oh, Jack, come backstage opening night. I'll leave your name with the doorman.
I promise I'll be there.
Oh, thank you. How nice to talk to you.
And you, too. Much success in Houston, and we'll see you on the 4th of July at the Muni.
You bet, Jack Carney.
All right, dear.
Bye-bye, dear.
Bye-bye.